non-profit that donates proceeds, yes, that's right,
Sock
to
company.
meaningful causes. Let's give him a round of applause and get him to talk about Conscious Step before he starts.
Yeah, look, Conscious Step is the sock company. Well, we're here, so each sock sponsors a different charity. This one supports Oceania. This one feeds 3 kids in refugee camps for every pair that's sold. You can use the code Adam sent me and you'll get a discount. But that is another life. Somewhere along the line, I took a left turn and went from sockware to software. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Left you with a question yesterday. How do you feel about AI? How do you feel about the coming robot revolution? How do you feel like what's already arrived? And I had some prompts for you. They're still up on the whiteboard there. I'm going to come back and ask you that question in just a moment, but with a little bit of framing first. Let's see if my clicker is working. There he is. Good old Garry Kasparov, 1997 we're looking at here. He's you guys don't mind if I speak plain English language, right? We're all about plain English drafting, right? Okay, so he's having his ass handed to him in this picture by a computer. It's the first time a computer beat a grandmaster at chess, and Time magazine ran with the headline, "The Beginning of the End." And it was predicting, uh-oh, we're all in trouble. The machines are definitely coming. Incidentally, 1997 was the same year that another little device launched to the market. Where are you? It doesn't want me to click. This thing, which I'm now pretty used to. But what on earth are all the 14 and 15-year-olds going to do to enjoy the next generation? I just used to get my pocket money on the way in. So, what is that? Phil's either online shopping or he's not pulling his weight around the house. We'll see. So there's your self-serve checkout. Now, the next one, 2011, IBM strikes again with their little device, Watson, winning the game show Jeopardy, which, once again, was claimed as something so difficult only a human would ever be able to play it, until these two, here's our plain English drafting again, had their asses handed to them. So, we're in a little bit of an interesting situation where so often we looked ahead into the future and said, well, machines are just never going to be able to do the things that humans can do. We're unique. We're special. We can have relationships. We're agile. We can, oh geez, what are the robots up to now? Have you guys seen this one before? No. This is what robots can do these days. Look at that. So, with this context, with jobs meant to be disappearing into technology, I love this Economist article headline, anything you can do, AI can do better, even backflip. Anyone else able to do a backflip? Yeah, uh-oh. Robots will destroy our jobs and we're not ready for it. Robots will take most jobs within 30 years. Rise of the machines. Now that you've seen that, how do you feel about AI coming? So, you just saw the prototype Terminator do a backflip. You can just imagine Arnie trying to do that with his heavy machine gun. Who's in that camp? Who's building a bunker before the Terminator gets here and just feeling really concerned about what's going on? Just Julian? It's because Julian's looked into it and he knows enough to be very afraid. Who's in the second camp? Oh, yeah, they can't replace me. Where are you? Yeah, okay, good to know where you are. What's that, sorry?
As long as your clients are people. When your clients are robots,
We'll see what happens there. Who's in the third camp? If it helps, I'm going to let my 8-year-old teach me how to use it. Good, hand them the iPad now. They'll be using this stuff. And anyone welcoming their robot overlords? Really excited about it? A couple of you. Okay. Yeah, good. Some of you have seen the light and are making sure they're very polite to the Alexa and saying, thank you for putting the music on, Alexa, because everything you say is getting recorded, and when the internet wakes up, you want it to have a record of you saying nice things to it. There's actually a fifth camp here, though. There's a slight reframing I want to do on this, which is I, for one, welcome our robot minions. Because the robots have arrived, but they do want you to be their boss. And this is actually a huge opportunity for you. Now, I won't go into this too much, but for the smaller law firms in the room, you guys are actually at an incredible advantage. There's this myth that it's the large law firms that are driving the change with AI. Well, they would if they could get 30 partners in a room to actually agree on using the damn thing. Whereas you guys can make a decision, get started, get it up and running in the time that they're still scheduling the meeting across 30 people's calendars. And there's a bit of a postscript to the way machines are being used. So here's Gary once again. And after Gary got beaten, he was like, hang on. If I had a computer with the same database that the IBM machine had, I reckon I would have had a shot at winning that game. So he actually started a new league of chess called the Centaur League. You know, centaurs, half human, half horse. Well, these are teams of humans and computers working together. And the best chess players in the world are no longer grandmasters. They're teams of people working with computers. That's the future. There is no one individual who can outperform a team of people working with computers. So there's opportunity here. Look at Gary. He didn't win the Russian election, but he's lucky to be alive, isn't he? So what are robots actually for? Well, they do the things that we don't like doing. And look, this is probably the first robot most people had in their home. Anyone who thinks, yeah, robots aren't helpful, obviously never met my grandmother. She thought they're the best thing since sliced bread. And I think she was around to see sliced bread when it first came out. Robots are helpful for doing things you don't like taking the stairs up to the gym. Oh, thank God for that. And look, personally, I just couldn't live without a Roomba. I'm a millennial. The idea of vacuuming, I'm hitting a button on my phone. That's how the vacuuming gets done. What else can robots do? So robots can process the detail in natural language a bit faster than we can. You're all lawyers, so of course you're perfectionist drafters. Who here has never made a mistake while typing a message on their phone? If only, right? So computers are really good at this. This is a tool called Grammarly. And if you're not using it, you need to start using it because it checks what you type as you type it and catches those little things that, of course, you wouldn't let through if you were actually proofreading something. But when you're trying to move fast because you're under this pressure and it's 9 p.m. and you're trying to get home to the kids, this is going to pick up things as you go. That's Grammarly. Top left, Grammarly. Have a look at it. It's well worth doing. Robots are great for checking huge amounts of data. And I love this example, which didn't get announced to much fanfare. This is my Google inbox. One day I started noticing, sent 3 days ago, follow up. Now, I'm getting maybe a couple of hundred emails a day and probably sending just as many. I don't have time to go back and go, when I emailed that person 3 days ago, did they ever get back to me? The AI is actually scanning the emails, recognizes when a question is asked, when it's suggested that a meeting should be coming up, and if there hasn't been a response, it pops back up into the system and says, do you want to follow up on this? I'm like, thanks, Google. So those of you using Outlook, get onto cloud, you get the robots working for you instead. This one will be familiar for Julian from University of Melbourne. This is a program called Turnitin. So every assignment that gets handed in by university students these days gets compared against every other assignment that gets handed in by universities and scours the web and Wikipedia and the journal articles, and it can tell you exactly what was copied and pasted from where and gives you an exact score of 90% plagiarized this one. I don't think they're getting a HD. Geez, it was a good essay, but the game is up. So robots are really good at actually checking every single essay. Julian was never going to get around to that. He's too busy for that. Yes. Yes.
Is that actually scanning if it's being copied word for word or just...
Yeah, so it gives you an assessment of how close it is to the original. Like you can see in the example 2 here, there's a model student, so maybe they've added a little bit of their own flair into it, but clearly not enough. Clearly not enough. Okay. What else are they good at? Anticipating what you need. Now, Marianne told you about Calendly. I reckon the next step up is this program, which is x.ai. That's a website if you want to write it down. This is this is a robot called Amy or Andrew that you CC on your emails. And you say, Amy, would you please find a time for me to meet with Mark? And Amy says, oh, hey, Mark, Adam's got availability at this time, and this time. And actually manages the responsive emails. You don't actually know that Amy isn't a real person. Amy is a robot. So, Marianne, maybe you can get a 4th person in your firm. Amy, Andrew, your choice there. Assembling the complex. Look, I wouldn't get into a car that wasn't made by a machine these days. Firstly, I probably couldn't afford it, but I don't trust humans to screw all those tiny screws and bolts tightly enough, so I'm going to take the robot, thank you. Speaking of cars, robots are really good at keeping you safe. Who's excited about self-driving cars? Who says, cars could never drive as well as I can? Anyone? Whoa. You know, most people think they're an above average driver. Look, this is how good cars are. This is real dashboard footage from Tesla's on self-driving mode. Have a look and see if you would have avoided these near misses. Oh, where did he come from? Rest of us who can't see around cars would have been in an awful lot of trouble just then. Oh, Pumbaa's in the way. Robots are really good at keeping us safe. And I'm going to show you an example in a minute of how you can keep your juniors safe in the legal sector. So, no, I think it was the human. So he spotted it as well after the car went beep, 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 beep. I'm doing something. Yeah, much better response times than humans do. So doing things only humans can do. Oh, I really like this example because it's cute. So if we're all about relationships and high touch, wouldn't it be great to be doing things like spending time doing a handwritten note for every one of our clients, thanking them for choosing us because they're the reason we're in business? Or you can just do a mail merge with a robot that will handwrite and mail your letters for you. So you actually send them examples of your handwriting. They code it into the computer so it looks like you were the one who handwrote it. So that's Bond. Yes, you can do that. You get your free handwritten note. Only humans can do these things, right? The robots are here. I love this example, and this is the future of where everything's going. Anyone seen Google book a hair appointment? A couple of you? Did the rounds a couple of weeks ago. So I'll just play it. Let's have a look.
What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like, what service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's your first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Wow. Yeah. Who did you speak to on the phone on Wednesday? Who booked that appointment? Or who or what? Or this is where everything's going. The robots have already arrived and it is actually time to start employing them in your business. So we're actually surrounded by them already. And I want you to imagine where this goes. Let's say we're going 5 years down the track and we're bringing all of this together. Now, Google or Amy has booked an appointment for you with a client. It knows where the client is, anticipates the traffic, knows that you had to pick up the kids later that day, so it made sure there was plenty of time to get there. The self-driving car through Uber turns up at the exact moment you need to get in. While you're on the way, it whispers into your ear some of the background about their social media, what they've been going up to lately, scans their Facebook and says, oh, don't forget to say happy birthday to the 8-year-old kid. You get there, as you're talking, it listens in for all the key details as it comes out. You say, look, we should catch up next week, and that meeting is already scheduled by the time you leave. And then you go back to the office because it's time to write up this shareholders agreement, and you take your handwritten notes and you give it to a paralegal who looks for the last time you did something similar to that, opens up the document, searches for all the examples of the previous client's name in there, cleans it up a little bit. Oh, this clause was half copied and pasted. Where's the rest of that? They go back and look for that. After an hour, they've got a document ready to start doing. They draft the document. 2 days later, they bring it back to the principal and say, okay, can you have a look at this? Out comes the red pen. Missing a full stop here. Left in her instead of his. Go back and do it again properly. It's a week before the actual document is done. This isn't the future. This isn't how it's actually going to work. So I'm going to show you how documents are going to be done in the future using the Smarter Drafter system, which is a little bit like having a Google and Amy, an expert legal assistant that just hangs out in your office waiting for you to say, all right, I'm ready to do a shareholders agreement. What do I need to cover with the client? So I'm going to give you an example of doing it with we'll do a will with a testamentary discretionary trust. And the experience of it, so we've called the technology real human reasoning, because essentially what we've done is bring in expert lawyers. So for example, the one I'm showing you was built with Mike Fitzpatrick, who was the head of estate planning at PwC until very recently. Mapped out all the possible thinking they might have, all the possible questions they might have, all the possible content they might put together, and built it into a seamless process. So this is a process that I'm told by lawyers will typically take them sort of 7 to 12 hours to do. Now we're going to see whether the internet is strong enough to look after me. And this is where I get a bit nervous doing a live demo, so if my hands are shaking and my typing gets messy, be nice to me. Thank you. Okay, so we see that? Great. All right, so this is what it looks like when you log into Smarter Drafter and you've got all the documents you need to do. So I've got the last will and testament up ready to go. You'll notice there's a few resources that come with each document. There's a marketing guide, so that's something you can hand to a client to explain why they might need a testamentary trust in their document. There's a deep dive tutorial video talking through how you can do very complex situations, like here's a complex situation. Well, it's a realistic situation. So Fred's the testator, his ex-wife Elaine needs to get the farm, and then it goes to James, who also gets the vintage motorbike. His current wife Ethel needs a right of occupancy on the house, and then it's got to split between the kids, but Stephen's got a gambling problem, so he needs a beneficiary support trust and doesn't get all the estate, while Helen needs a testamentary trust to stream the income from the house. You guys are following all this, right? But you get the idea that it can handle proper, realistic situations. And 2 more resources, meeting preparation guide, things to think about before you meet with the client. It doesn't quite whisper it in your ear yet, but hey, that's coming. And the price guide, so based on what we're hearing from our 100 plus law firms using it, what they're actually charging for documents like this. So essentially the system guides you through the legal decisions rather than the drafting choices. Do we want a testamentary discretionary trust in this will? Let's go with yes. I've made it for me, so I've popped in the details already because that would be boring to watch. You can copy and paste out of many of our users, Leap, for example, your other practice management system. You might copy and paste out of an email or a form that your clients have sent you, or they've been lazy with their typing. The system's going to recognize that and correct that, so it's capitalized. We're saying male or female because all the pronouns come out perfectly. There's no his/her in these documents. It's done exactly. Every state and territory the documents adapt to. And rather than the traditional way of opening up an old document and copying and pasting and hacking things together, we're essentially making the choices of what do we need included, what do we need to cover. And we kind of balance the speed and the detail that you want to go to. So you can skip past funeral directions, or as some clients want, they want to get very detailed, drill right down into all the choices they might have about their funeral directions. To keep it simple, I'm going to pick the public trustee, but if there are other executors, multiple levels of executors, multiple backup levels of executors as well. Basically, it's designed to handle pretty much any situation. All right, we need a law firm for advice. Who wants it? Anyone? Bueller? There you go. What's your law firm name? Cameron Court. Great. We're going to give you a lump sum for the advice as well. Let's call it $100,000. It's a sizable estate. We'll pop in 2 individual beneficiaries and a charity as well. Let's make the minimum age to collect the estate 25, because you can't trust those 18-year-olds. We'll make it Australian assets only. Incidentally, there's a firm in Hong Kong who uses our system for Australian expats over there, but it can handle international assets as well. Let's make some specific gifts of that motorbike. if we need these other trusts to be built at the same time, beneficiary support trust, right of occupancy trust, life interest trust, they can be done in the same process. I'm going to skip through a couple of these. Janet Jackson, she's the first beneficiary. She's my best friend, in case you didn't know. John Grisham, he's my speechwriter. We're going to leave him something nice as well. Look, I won't go into substitution mechanics. It's a great topic for another time. Well, who's got a favourite charity? Favourite charity?
Red Cross.
Red Cross. And then the next question is going to be, which arm of the Red Cross are you going to leave it to? Someone was telling me they're being a bit tricky with this recently, so we'll leave something to the Red Cross and keep my brother as the reserve beneficiary. We're going to give the vintage motorcycle to Janet Jackson because she's going to look good on it. And the rest of the estate, we could leave just to John Grisham because he did a good job, but we'll split it up between Janet and John in equal shares. Janet's in charge of any other trusts that are sitting around. We'll pretend I have kids and provide for them. We won't exclude anyone this time, though we could. And this is where I get excited, right? So we can produce a cover letter for the client at the same time. Because if we're going to do an advanced document like a will with a testamentary trust, they're going to be like, well, what does this bit mean? And what does this bit mean? So we produce a document that explains all the bits as well. So essentially the whole process will give you the will, the trust deed, all the other trusts that you need, the letter of advice as well. So let's say yes to the cover letter. There's a few choices about the cover letter, which I'll just skip through in the interest of time. A lot of guidance here. Whenever there's something that needs to be considered, the system talks you through it. And remember I said robots are there to keep us safe, just like those self-driving cars. You can hand this to a junior or a paralegal to have the first run through, and then they can give you the set of choices to review instead of a document with full stops missing and little bits of drafting. So it's huge productivity gain in knowing that what your junior staff can come up with for you to review is going to be right first time. So let's make the document. Live demos are always scary because I've also got to show you my inbox as well. And who knows what's arrived in the last 20 minutes. So essentially what's happened here is those choices we've made have been uploaded into our engine, that one that we call the real human reasoning. So it's essentially looking at this document the way a human would if they draft the entire thing from scratch. Word perfect drafting, the right content, matching the situation. So the annoying stuff, the looking for typos, the fixing someone else's work, none of that actually happens. It's just focused on the interactions that you have with the client and the choices that you make. Is it here yet? It's not. We're going to give it 2 more minutes to come through. So if you were to run 2 different wills, for example, and look at the changes to it, there's changes in literally thousands of places across the document. So you can run a comparison in Word. It's very detailed, the changes. So it's not like copy a paragraph from here and a paragraph from there. It's actually doing all the detail into it. Okie doke. There it is. Okay, so it gets delivered Microsoft Word and PDF. Let's open up the PDF just to give you a look. Last will and testament of Adam Long. Everything's properly hyperlinked, fully formatted, and it's got all those documents that I said were going to be in it. So it's got the will, it's got the discretionary trust terms, it's got the letter of advice at the end, it's got an information pack explaining the choices made along the way, all properly drafted. I mean, even down to things like the definitions that are included are only relevant definitions. There's nothing in this document that wasn't exactly relevant to the choices we made. And I mean, I set up a complex system. So 67 pages made here. There's our cremation directions. Here's our testamentary trust deed. There's let's add the letter of advice down the bottom. Where are you? Letter of advice, dear Adam. Here's all the details and the choices you made, and a few overviews on things like how the substitution mechanics work as well. So that's a process that we just did in 10 minutes. Cheated a little bit because I spent probably 5 minutes adding some things in before we started, but we're looking at a 15-minute process for something that would otherwise take 6 or 7 hours to do. And that's that system in a nutshell. You had a question?
How do you take into account, looking at that definition of child
Yeah.
in South Australia in the last 12 months,
Yep.
judicial decision as to whether a child will be included as a stepchild. So how do you take into account decisions as they're handed down and
Yep.
fill them in? Are you constantly updating it?
Yeah, so we have a knowledge management team based in Sydney. So we've got our experts that we contract in and a team in Sydney that keeps things up to date. So every time you use it, it will have the most recent changes already made into it. So our clients are getting updates on a pretty regular basis about changes as they come
I
through.
think that definition of child was
Yeah.
for a biological child or a legally adopted child.
Yeah.
It didn't factor in a stepchild.
Yeah, so there was some questions about it. I won't go into the detail now, but I'd be happy to show you afterwards how it handles that system. So it does adapt based on state and territory as well.
Adam,
Yeah.
look,
Whoops.
it's a great system, obviously, and I presume you're selling to law firms. Why? Well, why don't you just offer this service online?
So it comes down to the relationship, which is, funnily enough, has been the key theme of today. It's the people who will win are the ones who can own the relationship with the customer. Now, going down the path of building our own relationship with them, well, no, it's actually the lawyers already have the relationship there. And while there are threats on the horizon, like people who will do these documents directly to the end market, you guys are the ones who have the relationship. You're the trusted advisors, and this is going to give you more time to actually be the trusted advisor. So instead of spending half your time on a matter sitting in front of the keyboard, you've got those extra hours to, I don't know, play a game of golf. Anyone played a game of golf with a client in the last year? It doesn't happen anymore, does it? You're too busy. It's too much going on. So yeah, so look, that was a choice for us. So we only service law firms. Giant checks are always fun. This is a check I gave to a law firm in Sydney recently. They were considering going with either SmarterDrafter or going through Contracts Express and building their own documents from scratch, automating it themselves. We calculated how much it would have cost them to actually hire the people to do it, get their partners involved in signing things off and creating the content. We've never seen partners fall off their chair before, but you walk into their partner meeting with a giant check and you get a bit of a reaction out of them. So in terms of what people are doing with this, Concamino ran a conveyancing company, realised that every single client who came through conveyancing could review their estate planning. They've just had a major change in their life. He ended up doing 170 wills with testamentary trust for their existing client base through the system, taking on average about 20 minutes to do each one. And they actually mapped out the process right from the start. They said, you're here for conveyancing. At the end, we're going to look at your estate planning. So let's book in that meeting now. When the time came, opened up his laptop with SmarterDrafter, in one meeting had the estate planning done all together. Be Legal Lawyers, they've got a page on their website called Fixed Fee Services. If you have a look at it, it's no accident that it matches the list of documents that SmarterDrafter offers. He just promotes those and is able to do these pretty advanced documents at quite a degree of volume. There's a law firm in Melbourne whose name I'm not allowed to share because they don't want people to know that they've automated this stuff, but they've got the juniors now doing a lot of the upfront entering into the system, and instead of handing 67 pages for a partner to review, they're sending a link to the choices they've made in the system for the partner to review. So they're getting stacks of efficiency out of that. And David King, he joked and told me he could now do a $10,000 billable hour because of the volume of documents he could do in an hour. And this goes back to value-based pricing, right? If you're actually defending a client, setting them up properly, letting them sleep at night, letting them get on with running their business, they don't care whether it took you an hour or 10 hours to hand over the document. They care that they got value out of it and they're able to do it with the system. So, the robots are already here. And it's not just SmarterDrafter. I showed you a couple of others today that you probably should start using straight away. And it's kind of about whether you want to use it at all. And you're about to go home. It's the weekend. You're going to sit on the plane or in the car pretty excited about the things that you've seen today and yesterday and hearing about the value-based pricing and ways of surprising and delighting your customers and different technology you can implement in your firm. And you'll go back on Monday and you've probably got a couple of hundred emails left unread from today and there'll be matters underway and things to do. You just get to decide which type of caveman you want to be come Monday. Choose wisely. So we do unlimited subscriptions. So one price for the entire firm, unlimited access. So we don't penalise you for using the system. We don't penalising you for getting paralegals to do the work. So one price, whole firm, unlimited. Yep.